I remember we have family in Texas. So I remember my parents really like to ship us off. I don't know if other people's families do this, but in the summers, it was like, you get to go spend a month with your grandfather in Texas, or it was, pick some family member and then deposit kids there and then make them do stuff. So it was always like camp or help on the farm or, whatever. But definitely summers was deposit kids with random family in the South.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. Welcome into another Where Have You Been podcast episode. I'm your host, Bill Ream. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. And every week I say the same thing, that I have a fantastic guest. This is a first for us, I believe, on the podcast, not to have an entrepreneur on the show, but to have an orthodontist. And I might say, in my own personal opinion, pretty brilliant orthodontist and so much more. I have Dr. Amanda on the show today. Thank you for being here, Amanda. And if you would be so kind as to tell our listeners, who are you?
Sure. Hey, y'all. My name's Amanda. And yes, I'm an orthodontist, but I also think I am an entrepreneur. And maybe you can let me know by the end of this episode if I am or not. So orthodontist turned entrepreneur. And yeah, I'm a dentist, but I actually love travel. And the reason I found your podcast was because I like travel. So unfortunately, I live in Hawaii right now. So travel's a little more tricky, a little more expensive. But yeah, I have came to Hawaii through a few other states. I was raised in Oakland, or the East Bay of California, then went to college in St. Louis, Missouri area, and then went to grad school back in San Francisco. Oops, I forgot. I spent a year and a half of college also, besides being in Missouri, in Europe, studying in southern Germany. And yeah, grad school in San Francisco, and then also grad school in New England, in Connecticut, and then back to Hawaii, which is where I am now. And I've been to 32 countries over the last 51 years. But what I really hoping to talk about today is a little bit more about my recent finishing of visiting all 50 states, and really just some reflection on how wonderful our country is, with all these World Cup people exploring it and showing us bits of our country we even didn't know was there. So that was kind of my goal today, to talk to you.
Yeah, that would be absolutely excellent. I'm excited to hear about where you went to wrap up your tour and like what you had left on your list, and some stories about that. Before we do that, do you mind telling our listeners a little bit more about like what's your role with dentistry, how that sort of expanded, and because you're so much more than a dentist or orthodontist.
Sure,
you have
yeah.
a website, you have so much going on. You've sort of pioneered some things, I believe, and I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely an untraditional orthodontist. So, and I really do think a lot of this travel and just a lot of the cultural experience I've had has really shaped the version of orthodontics that I want to practice. So, yeah, I went to school just like everyone else, but I think I grew up in a family that really liked travel and really liked culture. And just from my experience, and we kind of talked about this a little bit in our pre-session, and for those of you guys who don't listen to podcasts, or have never made a podcast or been a guest on a podcast, usually you do a pre-session where you get a chance to chat and just kind of feel the vibe. Sometimes we just wing it and go straight in, but Bill and I did chat a little bit a few weeks ago. And initially when I first was talking to him, I said, hey, we should talk about Hawaii because that's where I live. And I definitely consider myself the top 1%, 0.1% of 1% of knowledgeable people about Hawaii, since I've lived here for a couple of decades. But even as a kid, I mean, our family was huge into travel. I mean, travel was, I would say, was the one thing that all members of our family could always safely talk about. I think we grew up, my parents were from the South, like from the deep South, like from Arkansas and Mississippi and Georgia, which is total culture that I respect. And a lot of us in the United States maybe haven't had so much exposure to the Midwest and Southern culture. So I really have a lot of appreciation for the Midwest and Southern culture. And I think it is culture. And I think it was the one thing that our family, all members, no matter your political affiliation or your religious affiliation, you were always open to talking about travel. And it's definitely something that I try to keep really up on and head on and know what's going on, because it's definitely a conversation that you can have with anyone at any cocktail party or dinner party, or no matter where you meet somebody, there's always travel is always a safe topic. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started listening to your podcast and getting more involved in it.
Excellent. Before we jump into actually your travel stories and such and get into that kind of thing, do you mind telling people a little bit about your website and what you do there, what your specialties are, sort of lie in, just to kind of tout you a little bit?
No, thanks. Yeah. So I am an orthodontist, but I definitely took a less than traditional approach, not on purpose, but I think I'm just maybe unique, and you guys can figure this out after this next hour or so. But I think what I picked a career that would be good for my brain in terms of I found orthodontics interesting, and orthodontics is dentistry, but without blood and spit, really. Well, I guess there's always a little spit, but it's mostly brain dentistry, as in you don't really have to touch the patients. The assistants do, but we just make the planning and we talk. We make a lot of conversations about how teeth move, and we study the face and study the bite. And if you're really good at puzzles, you'll love orthodontics. So yeah, I picked it because I found it interesting and I wanted to study it. But what I found more interesting, honestly, was always culture and travel. So I didn't realize, and I guess this is just kind of my ignorance, being in my teens and 20s and picking a career before realizing if it would actually work on me. But I didn't realize how important travel was to me and having the ability to travel at a moment's notice. And, you know, it's a little more difficult. Like I said, living in Hawaii now, I mean, there's no place that's close within a moment's notice. Everything is going to take at least 5 or 6 hours to get to and get back, even if you go for 1 or 2 days. Because, I mean, the closest landmass is 2,400 miles away, unless I pick Samoa or French Tahiti or something. So it's a minimum 5 hours to get anywhere, basically, stateside or otherwise. But I guess I didn't realize that practicing orthodontics wasn't going to work for me because you're practicing in a box. You're literally in like an 800 square foot or smaller space 4 to 5 days a week. And you're
I was going to say that'd be terribly difficult.
I know. Why was I not thinking about this? You're booked out. And the thing about orthodontists is we're booked out solid 6 months. And that's what used to get me. And I think if anyone understands, I think your listeners and you will understand this, because average Americans don't think this is an issue. They're like, wow, you make really good money. Wow, you have a safe job. You always will be employed. Like you can get a job probably anywhere. Yeah. But if I hate being stuck in a box and it makes me really anxious, it would just be sad because I'd have friends that were like, hey, I could go skiing. Wow, a great, I was, we have a great snow. Hey, I want to pop out and go skiing for the weekend. No, can't do that, because you're booked for the next 6 months, right? So there's like zero flexibility to do anything fun and spontaneous. And I guess I had really not thought about that part of it. So yeah. So I think I love the practice of it and the study of it. I just don't like how it's practiced. So I said, oh, if I maybe decide to be more of an entrepreneur in the orthodontic industry, then I could still be able to travel. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, which is basically I developed a website, which is called Straight Smile Solutions. It's an educational program to try to educate primary care dentists on how to do more orthodontics in their office. And you guys might say, what does that mean? Well, basically, if you think of it this way, think about it in terms of medicine. Your family practitioner, the person you go to for your medications and your, whatever, regular checkups, they can do other stuff besides checkups, right? They could deliver babies. They could take a skin lesion off. They could do sutures. They could do anything. They could do minor surgery if they wanted to. Well, same thing with dentists. A primary care dentist, be it a family dentist, a general dentist or a pediatric dentist, can do braces or orthodontics. Of course they can. Not all of them do, but more of them are doing it now than ever because technology has made it easier. Now with Invisalign and a lot of the other products out there, digital braces. So before it just was too hard for them. You'd have to have the solid 3 years of training. And now with all technology, it's a lot easier. So a lot of them are getting started in it, but they don't really know what they're doing and they're asking for help. So I said, hey, wait a minute. I could do this differently. I could do this instead and help support and create educational models for DSOs and offices and primary care dentists and venture capitalists to teach them more about orthodontics. And I could do it from anywhere. I could do it from any country, any state. how fun is this? So yeah, about 11 years ago, I switched and I haven't looked back.
Wow. So, like, literally 11 years ago, you shut down any sort of local practice. You don't practice anymore. Is
No,
that correct?
I mean, I'm not going to say this definitively. My husband has 4 practices now, so he's been
Oh my gosh.
collecting them. So he's diversifying all over the mainland. So he's not now in Hawaii, California, and Nevada as of this week. And this is just him. I'm not part of his practice. Like I said, he's a primary care dentist. Does he use my educational platform? Absolutely. Of course he does. Just like all my other doctors. Of course he does. And he gets it for free. Lucky guy. But yeah. So he has the stable job, the one that has the insurance, and I get to have the fun one and raise the kids and travel.
Oh, that's the way it should be. So
Yay.
before we jump in, can you just tell the listeners, if anyone is interested in reaching out to you, how can they find you most easily?
Sure.
Socials or anything?
Yeah, socials. I mean, all my socials are Straight Smile Solutions. So that's the name of my company, Straight Smile Solutions. So I would say YouTube is my biggest channel. I make just tons of content on orthodontics and moving teeth. But in my content that I make, I have over 3,800 videos to date and 900 blogs. I often talk about issues in my life and things I'm doing and travel. And it's become a thing where I've ended up picking up a ton of clients that also travel and they need my help because they want more flexibility in their life, So like-minded people attract like-minded people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's very cool. Now, again, of course, I always do, I'll put the links in the show notes so everyone can just do an easy click and find you if they're interested in that.
Great.
So this is the point of the show where I ask my guest the title of the show, which is, Amanda, where have you been? And you can feel free to take that anyway, and you don't have to limit it to just the States, even if we focus mostly on the States. It's up to you. So where have you been?
All right. Well, I actually did my due diligence and printed out a map. I'm not going to read it to you guys, but I wanted to make sure I remembered where I have been. But it's mostly Europe. At one point, I was trying to work on hitting every single European country. There was a point in high school where I tried to do that, and then I gave up because Yugoslavia turned into many different countries, and I was mad because I'd already been to Yugoslavia, but now it was more country. Same thing with the USSR, turned into many different countries, which is probably a good thing, but I'd already been there, and now I have to hit all the countries. So I gave up. At one point, I would have said I hit everything in Europe except for Romania, Greece, and Ireland, but now I'm missing all those countries. So besides that, a few places in Asia and my 50 states, which we're going to talk about today.
Excellent. And you did kind of touch on, you said your family traveled quite a bit when you were younger, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to rehash that necessarily, unless there's something more that, do you remember kind of, like, was there sort of a moment in your life that was like, wow, I just have to do this. I have to continue to do this because I enjoy it so much? Or was it just kind of the way you were raised and it just sort of is what it is?
I would say, so without giving too much info about my family, my suspicions, and this may come up later in the broadcast, I might as well throw it all up there now. And I think you and I talked about it. I am neurodivergent. I'm on the autism spectrum. You had no judgment. You were cool with me coming on. So occasionally I'll sound a little awkward. That's just my autism speaking. So no worries about that. But my hypothesis about my family is that the entire family is autistic neurodivergent, every member. So I may have some siblings who listen to this later, and I told a bunch of my family members I was going to be on this podcast, and actually my mom listens to your podcast. So I actually have family members that listen to it. So they're going to be like, whoa, don't out us. Yeah, don't out us. But I mean, my hypothesis is that my whole family is neurodivergent and that travel is actually our one thing we all have in common and the one thing that excites us. It's our special interest. So travel was like the one thing that our family would do growing up that we never thought about. So it was always happy, I'm not saying we didn't fight on trips, but it was always a positive thing. So, and in neurodivergent families, there's often a lot of trauma, especially ones where everyone's undiagnosed. So it is probably the one thing from my childhood that I always look at fondly is travel. And definitely, I think my mom had a lot of kids. My family has a lot of kids. So, I think it was very expensive to travel. So it was definitely, I do remember dressing up as a kid, going on airplanes, which you probably remember as well. Putting on your dress and your finest sweater and your nice shiny shoes to go on the airplane. Your hair was braided and done, and you looked nice, in the 70s and 80s going on planes. And it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember I remember it in that, I know that was the way things were. I never really traveled until about 10 years ago. So it's,
okay.
I crammed a lot in 10 years, but it's been a relatively new thing in my life. So I've mentioned that a little bit on the podcast. I won't get into it now,
No, that's okay.
but yeah, but I understand. Like, yeah, you would not be seen wearing sweats on an airplane
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, actually, so this actually brings up one point. My grandfather actually was an exec for Lockheed Martin, well, an engineer. And so that's the reason he wasn't drafted in World War II is because he was building airplanes for America. But he actually was German. So that's part of the reason he spoke German. That was part of the reason and of Jewish descent. So that's part of the reason we're all still alive is because of travel, to be honest. And we weren't exterminated in our whole family. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And travel was always considered in our family very respected, in the community. So it was very important that we looked nice to, at least my mom used to tell me that it was very important that she looked nice to respect her dad and his company when she traveled. And she tried to teach us the same thing.
I think that's excellent. And there's definitely some good value in that, I think. And some of that may be missing today, but we don't have to get into that either.
Yeah, it's fine.
Do you remember?
Honestly, it's so crowded. You just have to be comfortable. So it's completely different how it was.
That's at this point, especially on budget airlines, but which there's becoming less of now, apparently. Mm-hmm. But do you remember any specific memories or stories from when you traveled as a child with your family? Anything that stands out to you that before we jump into like your recent travels?
Oh, for sure. Actually, my dad is in town in Hawaii right now, and we had lunch yesterday, and I brought this up, and I say, hey, let's talk about some stories that we remember. So, oh goodness, I mean, so many. Well, like I said, my parents are from the deep South, so Mississippi, Arkansas, Georgia. So, a lot of our travels were visiting family in areas of the U.S. that maybe were harder to get to. So, and I think both of my parents wanted to keep us really connected to our cousins and our greater family. And we were living in, so little context, my parents were from the deep South, but they went to college in Stanford. So they were both very bright and they met at Stanford University, two Southerners, at Stanford. And then as people did in the 60s, they got married, at graduation and started a family, they're young. So, but then they were living in Berkeley, California. So Oakland, Berkeley, which is, really hippie in the late 60s, early 70s. So it was a very different way to be raised, by Southern parents turned hippie parents, but yet we'd go back and spend a lot of time in the deep South for a lot of our travels. And it was actually it was entertaining and confusing at the same time. Because, I mean, if you can imagine 70s and 80s, one half of you is like crazy, like liberal, just, Berkeley kind of hippie. And the other part is like deep South rules, like yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I mean, this is barely after segregation is done. I mean, 70s. I don't even know when Asians could marry people who are Caucasian. I think in the South, this didn't even start till the 70s or 80s, and women couldn't even open a bank account when I was born. I mean, like things have really changed.
Yeah, and really, when you think about it in a short amount of time, really short amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, that's crazy to think about.
It is. I mean, things have like crazy changed. But yeah, I mean, stories. Yeah, you asked about stories. I mean, my parents were also on the Hit All 50 States cruise. The Hit All 50 States thing was in our family. I don't know if it's just our family or if other people go on these challenges because now like everyone's doing it. But I remember like we went out of the way as a family to try to hit different states and make sure we saw family at the same time. But it was always all about the food, like food for sure.
Oh, nice. Okay. Interesting. We should definitely talk about that at some point. But do you want to transition into like, tell me about what was your most recent trip? How long was it? And, whatever you'd like to share with us about it.
Sure. I'll tell you about my finishing up my 50 states adventure.
Okay.
Which was 3 years ago. So I had 2 states left and they were, it's not like this was all like planned out years in advance. I mean, it was just whenever I had an opportunity to hit another state, whether it was a lecture or a CE course or anything that I had to do, I would just try to hit it. Matter of fact,
doesn't it kind of start out at some point where it's like, you happen to have been to 6, 7, 8, 9 states, and then all of a sudden it gets to a point where you're like, wait a minute, I've been to 20. I might as well finish them all,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it was easier when we were younger because I feel like people did more road trips back then, like pile everyone in the big car and like drive across the country. And I mean, since I went to college, my first college was in St. Louis. Washington University, St. Louis. I drove my car out there and back. So I went I-10, I think, one way and I-80 the other way, or vice versa, or 20 or something like that. So, I banged out a ton of states. I purposely picked my route so that I could hit more states. So, I mean, that's just part of the fun of it, right? But yeah, my last two states were actually North Dakota, South Dakota, which are little trickier ones to get to, right? It was like, oh no, these are the two that are left. And, you know, I didn't want to disparage them. And to be honest, I was like pleasantly surprised when I went to the States. Like I wasn't thrillingly looking forward to going to them as my last two. But luckily I have a friend who I actually met in Germany. And we've stayed in contact, and she was also trying to hit her 50 states. We started talking about this when we were both trying to hit all of our countries in Europe back in the 1994. We had talked about this, so I was like, I need to finish my states. And she said, me too. I said, okay, where do you need to do? She said, I need to do like Michigan. I was and Wisconsin. I said, I need to do North Dakota, South Dakota. So we just banged that all out on one trip. South Dakota was phenomenal. Like first flew into the airport. There's only the few gates. I was like, oh no. And there's not even any Ubers, like no Ubers. I hadn't had an American airport with no Ubers. Like that's crazy. And there wasn't even a taxi out front. There was nothing. So,
Wow.
like I'm sure they have them. It just wasn't obvious. And usually you don't have to arrange an Uber ahead of time. It's just there. So that was just my ignorance coming from bigger cities. But that was a really cool state. South Dakota was fun. Like the food was really good. Like it wasn't, I was thinking it was all going to be like hometown buffets. You know what a hometown buffet is, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, which is a staple. There's nothing wrong with a hometown buffet. If you guys like it, there's nothing wrong with that, or a golden skillet, or golden corral, or whatever we're calling these. But I'm in my 50s. I can't eat like that very often anymore. So, but there was like some really nice food and a lot of indigenous type of places to eat. Like really into, I guess, just because there's a lot of reservations around there and things like that. But we had a blast. We did so much indigenous culture activities, and we went to some like I say spa, but it's like not like a bougie spa. It's like it used to be a Native American spa, where like a Native American wellness center where that area of the land had hot springs and certain type of mud that they would use for medicinal reasons. And it was so cool. Like we went for like treatments and salt exposure, and it was really cool. It was very all run by an indigenous population. So very fun. South Dakota was great. We headed up to North Dakota after that to try to hit it. We went to I think there's a state park there called like Roosevelt State Park. I don't know if it's called that, but it was definitely set up by Roosevelt as a sanctuary. It was incredible. It's just really beautiful parts of the world.
How long do you try to spend in each place? Like, do you try to go to multiple cities to try to get a real feel for it, or just kind of make sure, hey, I want to at least stay here, do something, make sure I get to enjoy some of it so I can say that I was here.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
there's a few ground rules to the 50 states. So I probably should go over my 50 states ground rules. So my family has come up with ground rules for the 50 state challenge. It may be different than other people's ground rules, but the ground rules are you cannot be an airport. And someone came up with these rules a long time ago. And my auntie, my brother, like all of us believe in these rules. So, and I was the first person to hit all 50 states. And people were in my family were doubting I actually did it properly and followed the rules, but I did. Legit, it was never just an airport. It always had to be, you had to either eat at a restaurant, you could vacate an airport, because before 9/11, it was much easier to get in and out of an airport and go on the town. So I would purposely book long, 4, 5, 6, 7 hour layovers, like maybe I was going to college, but I'd do a big layover and then I would just walk or take a taxi to go eat something to hit a state.
okay.
Yeah, that's the rules. Them's the rules.
Yeah. And so, of all the states that you've been in, when you're going on this challenge, specifically for the challenge, not just for, hey, I'm just going to take a vacation and go to Orlando and spend a week or whatever, but like specifically for the challenge, what's the longest you've stayed in a place that you can think of?
Oh, I mean, it's pretty rare. I would say for the challenge, except for those last couple states that I only went the last maybe 5 to 10 states, I only went to hit the states. So I would say it was a day or two per state. Hit one or two cool things. But I mean, before that, it was always I was there for some major event or something. Yeah.
Very cool. And then did you go with your friend to Michigan and wherever else as well, or no?
I did. Yeah. We went to some wineries. We drove all the way up in Michigan and went to some parts I'd never been to. It was cool because I'd only been to like Ann Arbor before.
That's awesome. Well,
We had
take
cheese
anywhere.
curds. Oh, sorry. I
Are they-
pick up the cheese curds. Have you ever had a cheese curd?
I love cheese curds.
Do you
I don't know.
really?
Are they famous in
So
Michigan
weird. No, Wisconsin. But
or Wisconsin?
I just remember the cheese curds, and the two of us were like, We just like spit them out the window. There was something about the mouth feel and the squeakiness on your teeth that both of us were like, nope.
They're definitely a little different, and it's got the right kind of cheese and the right flavor.
Probably was a touristy type of thing. And then someone told me that this is just a touristy thing and they just scrape it out of the bottom of the barrel, and that the people, it's only drunk people in bars in Wisconsin that eat cheese curds. And that I got taken advantage of. But I don't know if that's true. I'm not
I'll
sure.
buy a bag of them once in a while from my local Aldi. It's their very good. Yeah.
Well, you're in Pittsburgh. Yeah, okay, they do cheese curds in Pittsburgh. Yeah. That's still same land. No, it's probably just something you got raised on. Just like I eat California stuff. I don't know what I eat.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not an all the time thing. I don't like always have a bag in my fridge, So
Okay, well, I'm glad I got all that because
hurts.
if my friend Kristen listened, the one I went with, traveled with, she's definitely gonna ask about the cheese curds if you ate them.
Yeah, I like. Sometimes there'll be like a garlic, something like a garlic one or something. I don't know. They're pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So take me anywhere you want to go. So that like wrapping up your tour was pretty quick. Is there any like stories, experiences? If you and I were sitting in the airport at a bar waiting for a flight or something, and obviously we both travel. What would be some of the stories or experiences you've had anywhere that you would just have to share?
Okay, I'll tell you a Pittsburgh story because you're there, so you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I kind of started talking about with you on our pre-interview, and then I think I went sideways. But so this was just like a random day in Pittsburgh. This is just typical of my family. So we had met my mom. My mom lives in California. My daughter and I live in Hawaii. So we said, hey, let's meet up in Pittsburgh. I don't know why. Why are we going to Pittsburgh? Oh, because we needed to hit West Virginia. She and I needed to hit West Virginia and Ohio. So that's why we went to Pittsburgh, because
Pittsburgh is the
actually
easiest place to fly into, right?
Believe it or not, Pittsburgh is super close to West Virginia and Ohio, and you could just hit them both within an hour from the airport. Boom, boom, real fast. And then he wanted to,
because there's a sliver of West Virginia that goes down where you actually cross into West Virginia for a very short, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour. And you're in
we were all that. Yeah. That's exactly it. And then we went over to see Amish land. Now I remember, which is actually phenomenal. If anybody has never been to Amish land, I mean, you know the area. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely. Probably, Lancaster is the biggest, but.
Yeah, Lancaster, right. But I mean, it's. I kind of feel like I'm in a zoo when I go into, because you don't want to be looky-loos. But I honestly am more interested in their food. Like their food is. I'm bringing up food again. The food and the shopping, but the food is incredible. The candies, the ice cream, the pastries, everything is just homemade and so yummy. And the price point is that their delis and the places they sell the food is so cheap. So yeah, we went food shopping in Amish land. But yeah, it was super cool. We went with my mom, and it was just random, no plans. It was just drive around and see what happens. FAFO. So, but that's just how we do it. So we had so much fun. And then she decided that we needed to go visit relatives. And I was like, what, relatives? And it turns out we had tons of family members that were buried in all kinds of cemeteries all over greater Pittsburgh, Ohio, and all around there. So we went to visit all the graves and found all her relatives. It's pretty cool.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. I'm assuming somewhat distant relatives.
I mean, it was her grandfather. But her grandfather, the story, this is a Pittsburgh story, if you see. This is the best part about knowing U.S. geography. And this is what I tell my kids. And like, if you really get to know U.S. geography, it doesn't matter who you meet. You will always have something in common with everybody. And it really helps with business events and other things. Because here, we just met, once or twice, and now we're talking about Pittsburgh. But I mean, Pittsburgh was like, I totally forgot where I was going with this. I do that occasionally.
That's okay. You were talking about your grandfather, and
yes,
and...
I know. So here's my Pittsburgh story. So my grandfather was actually a physician, but he was an indentured servant, which means that his parents passed away when he was younger. And this I think this was like 1911 or something. It's like a long time ago. Sorry, this is not my grandfather. This is my great grandfather. But in Pittsburgh, so he was at age 11, he was an indentured servant. His parents had passed away. He lived in the basement of a medical school and he tended the fire for the cadaver lab. So it must have been University of Pittsburgh or something. I don't know what medical school was there. But so he would sleep with the cadavers downstairs in the basement and he tended the fire in the cadaver lab. And he used to read the books that were there. And that's how he studied to become a doctor. And I guess back then you could just take the test. I mean, it wasn't like as big of a deal. But yeah, that is my Pittsburgh story for you. So we went to go visit his grave. And of course we told my daughter the whole story of, this grandfather that worked so hard just to become a doctor.
Yeah, and also that's to me a very frightening position to have. It's to at 11 years old to be sleeping with cadavers. I understand the need.
This kind of stuff happened, even just 100 years ago. I mean, no, but we need to talk about this stuff in the US because this stuff happened.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And to have family members like all over the place like that scattered, it's pretty neat. And I've never really gotten into the genealogy stuff. I started to a little bit, but I don't know. I could have family members all over the place too. I have no idea.
Yeah, both my grandparents really got into it. They remember they would go to Salt Lake City. I guess it sounds like the Mormons, even if you weren't LDS, like they have a lot of stuff on genealogy that's in their tabernacles. Or I might be using the wrong words, but you have to go to Salt Lake City and go into these archives. And both my grandparents and even my auntie, they spend days at a time in these archives, start researching the family, which is really just very generous that they do this.
Yeah, and it's really kind of cool that they as a, I don't know, I don't want to say a society, but that they do keep meticulous records and things like that. It's sort of, I think it gets lost in many areas.
I think there's a reason why they do it, but we won't get into the culture.
Yeah, right.
But yeah. I respect it. And if that's the culture, I want everyone to go to heaven if that's what you believe. So that's cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's very interesting to me. So very cool. Haven't gone in and looked at any of the records? You've just kind of gone off this.
I have never been invited. I mean, not that I don't, it's tedious, but I think it's kind of a passion project for some of the family members of mine. And actually they've done all the research, so I may not have to do it, but at least if they invite me to go visit the grave, I want to make sure that my daughter knows where these things are because she may do the same thing to her kids, So it is definitely something that we do. And it's actually a big part, just a little sidebar. I mean, right now I mentioned I live in Hawaii. I've been here for about 2 decades, but Hawaii has a lot of culture. And one thing that you and I had talked about when we were prepping is we were looking and kind of looking at a lot of these World Cup reflections that are being put up there now, with these Scottish and Finnish and whoever else, Norwegians that are coming to and Japanese and Koreans coming to experience different parts of the country that usually don't get a lot of press and really enjoying it, and putting out new content out there about our country that maybe people haven't seen and they don't even know these places exist. So that's why I really wanted to do this recording, this topic with you, because I was just thinking some of the fun reflections of how cool our states are and how many adventures we have that are just right outside your doorstep.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the videos have been absolutely hilarious, by the way.
Oh.
Especially the Scots know how to party. And
oh yeah, Boston.
Yeah, up in
my son is there. Yeah, my son's a student at MIT, but he's home for the summer. But he's been cracking up at all these cones on like the statues at MIT and stuff. He says that's so funny. So
yeah,
that he says, darn, I would have liked to have partied with them. But my family is actually British and Scottish, and legit, like when we travel with them in the US, because I remember even growing up, they'd come over like every other year, or 1 year we'd go over and spend a summer with them, and then they'd come over and spend a summer with us. And they used to just fly the kids over, and sometimes without the parents, and then we'd take them on these road trips, And so it was the same thing. It was like kids from Europe experiencing some random country, and my mom would take them to some random state. My mom would take them all over the place. They went Midwest, South, and sometimes the looks on their faces when they tried something new, which is just mundane to us, but to them it's like, what, you mean the soda's unlimited? I can have so many refills? And then they're mixing the flavors, and you cannot mix the flavors in Europe. First of all, in Europe, if you want to get a drink with your meal, you're going to pay for it no matter what drink it is, even if it's water, and you're not getting ice in it. And if you do get ice in it, you're getting one piece of ice. It's just not that hot there. No, although it's actually pretty hot. I live there. It can get very hot. It's just, they just maybe don't have the technology as much and people don't complain. Like I think here, at least in our house, I mean, like my husband and my daughter are obsessed about ice. Like they cannot have any beverage without being filled all the way to top with ice. And I personally am not a big ice fan, but I don't get the love of ice, but I think it's a cultural thing. But yeah, that back to what we were talking about in Hawaii. Yeah, people are really into their ancestors in Hawaii. So I started getting more into ancestors, just to beeline back to the old topic after spending some time with my family in Hawaii.
Yeah. And that makes total sense as well. And I think, and kind of sidetracking because we were talking about the ice thing and stuff like that. I just think it's just the way the culture is, just the way that it's always been this way. And if that's what people grow up with, then they don't really know any different or don't care any different because, that's just, it is what it is. Those are some of my funniest videos though, is when the people coming over that are like, or they'll come out of a convenience store and they'll have a medium drink that's bigger, almost as big as their head. And they're like, this is a medium? Like, who needs this?
Is the soda thing, I just can't. I mean, I may have been raised here, but I've never been a soda person, and we didn't drink soda growing up, and I'm not a soda fan. So no, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, even in the Midwest, I remember just to even talk about cultural differences. I mean, I grew up in San Francisco, and I'm not saying it was a wealthy family or anything, but we didn't drink soda. We were definitely more health conscious, and we had organic vegetables, and we didn't call them organic. We just planted our vegetables in the backyard, and we didn't use poison, and we picked the snails off. I mean, it's organic, right? So that's how we ate, but that's how I thought everyone ate. No. When I went to college in Missouri, I went on a date like my first year, and for the date, I went to the dude's house, and the parents cooked, and they were from Missouri, and I was like shocked because people were opening cans for the vegetables. I mean, I'd seen that there was canned vegetables in the grocery store, but we didn't buy them. Like we never bought canned vegetables. Cans were only used if you were camping or if there was an emergency. You'd keep cans in the back of your thing if the power went out or something, I mean, this occasionally happens, right? But we never ate them. So I didn't know that people actually ate canned or frozen food. It's because we made everything from scratch. So I mean, just little things like that. And then the 2-liter sodas on the table with dinner was like, what? You guys drink soda with dinner? That's weird. Like that's very strange. We only drink water or milk, or wine, but yeah, it's just very different.
It's funny because that's sort of like on a smaller scale. We've talked about this on the podcast actually, about kind of living in a bubble and like you don't know what you don't know, and how like travel in and of itself is such a horizon expander and just really can change your life when you understand the way other people live in other places, and whether it's similar or different or it's just their norm. But yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and that's part of what I really love about travel, is seeing how different cultures live day to day.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think that, I mean, my mom really had the opinion, and so did my dad, that the more we traveled, the more professional we'd be, the better kids we'd be, the better adults we'd be, and always the focus on respect, learning about the culture before you get there, practicing the language and the culture before you get there. Like we would never go to a country and not at least learn basic phrases. That was part of our role. If I'm going to take you to Europe and we're going to go to this new country, you need to know the basic phrases so that you can say, at least please, thank you, where's the bathroom? Like we were not allowed to speak English when we traveled. Like I'm not saying I know every language in Europe, but you were not allowed to go on the trip unless you could show that you're proficient. And sometimes my mom wouldn't bring all the kids on the trip. Sometimes kids would get left home. So that's how it is.
Yes. 1,000%. I agree wholeheartedly. This exact topic actually just came up today in my workplace. And I mentioned the same thing. Like when I go traveling to another country, I try to be respectful. There's no way I'm going to learn the whole language. I can learn please, thank you, goodbye, hello,
At least put the effort out, and then they'll switch into English if needed. They'll ask, and then once they see your, they switch and they give you permission to switch, then you can switch and say thank you. But until then, you try,
Yeah, and especially with me, they can still tell that I don't speak their language natively, so I'll still get an English language menu.
Yeah.
I don't even have to ask for it.
Yeah,
So
good.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, tell me, because like you kind of have this idea of focusing on the United States, which is cool. I like it. Again, we don't do that enough. And we've also discussed on the pod before that, the United States, while it is one country, you can consider it sort of like a smaller Europe because every state is very different. And it's almost
very
like two little countries, right? And so
It is. And even within one state, you can have more than one. And it can be even in like my state, Hawaii. I mean, our topography here is incredible. I'll always keep coming back to it because I think it's the best state. But I mean, we can, in one day, you could hike a volcano and see it erupt. You could see snow. You could swim in the ocean and snorkel and fish. I mean, you can do everything. Same thing in California. And you can do everything all at once. It's like incredible how much cool stuff we have in our states.
Yeah. Well, what are besides Hawaii, of course, what have been some of your favorites that you've been to?
She should just name a state and I'll tell you. It's so hard. Like, it's so overwhelming. I mean, Alaska was a pretty recent one. Have you been to Alaska?
I have not, but it's definitely on my list.
Needs to. So that was a harder one to get to. I feel like Alaska's a stretch because for most people, like there's no cheap way to get there or easy way to get there. Here's the thing about Hawaii. People might not know. Well, now you got Hawaiian Airlines got purchased by Alaska Airlines, right? So that's pretty obvious what I'm gonna say. But yeah, there's a direct flight that goes from Honolulu to Anchorage. And just guess. I mean, without you might already know, but how long do you think that takes?
Oh my gosh, I haven't even given it a thought.
Wild guess.
8 hours.
It's the same distance as going to Seattle from Honolulu, or maybe a little more
Huh.
and going to San Francisco. It's like close your eyes and you're in a completely different world. You're from palm trees
Wow.
and tropics and volcanoes to like glaciers, and it's that fast.
That's
Direct flight.
incredible.
It's crazy, and it's a cheap flight too. It used to be. I mean, I don't know how much it is now, but when Alaska was just Alaskan, I think I spent like $99 on that flight. Like, it is a crazy cheap flight. I think everyone who comes to Hawaii should pop up to Alaska and then come home. That's what I would do. I mean, it's crazy, and
Oh,
Alaska's
for
like
sure.
incredible. Like, it's so cool.
So, take me through a little bit of Alaska. What did you see there? What did you do there?
First time I
And how
went
long were
there
you there
was
for?
this was a few days. First time I went there was for a business trip. So I was actually working for a dental startup and I was going to do some network development. So it was just a quick flight in, flight out, hit a bunch of doors, a bunch of lunch and learns. But that was during the summer, and it is like really cool going there in the summer because the sun really never goes down. So you lose all sense of time. And I had done that before. I had been up in Sweden, I think, for the summer solstice, which was really cool. But if you've never experienced the summer solstice, I highly recommend it.
I have not, and actually, and that's another destination that's on my list. So, yeah. Although the problem with that is you go and it's all daylight, you can't see northern lights.
No, no, you're not going to see Northern Lights. I've actually never seen the Northern Lights. Have you seen them? Like, this is
No.
that like I hit. It's like I can't. It's one of those things where we tried to hit it on the Alaska trip, and we had the app out, and we were going to do this, and like, and then I was in Canada with my kids one time. We tried. No luck. So I've a new rule for me is if it happens, it happens. At some point in my life, it'll happen, but I don't want to plan for it because I used to get disappointed.
Yeah. The hard part for me with that is that I've I've heard from people who have seen the northern lights how
Mhm.
breathtaking, and seeing photos or videos of it just don't do it justice, and I really want to
Yeah.
experience that in person. But I also get the sense of, you can't let yourself get too bummed out. I mean, life is too short, and it's beautiful in its own way no matter what. So,
Yeah, it'll happen sometime. But yeah, I mean, I think you really do, and you have to be someplace that's not cloudy too. So it's a matter of
mhm.
being someplace north that's not cloudy.
So it is definitely right place, right time.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, so
yes.
Alaska was really cool. Of course, going back to the food again. I mean, I'm not a big seafood eater, but in Alaska, I can eat all the seafood. It just tastes different there. Like, there's no fishy taste on the seafood. It's incredible.
So Alaska is one of your favorite states. What else do you got for me?
I always got stuff for you. All right. All right. Well, I definitely wanted to focus more on Texas. I think that was the videos that keep coming up is Texas experiences. Have you ever been to Texas before?
I've been there a few times actually. I've been, but not many places. I've been to Galveston a couple of times, and I've
Mhm.
been to Austin and San Antonio. I've never been to Dallas of all places, but
Nah, you're not losing anything there. But
really,
Texas is incredible. It's almost like I would say California. And okay, sorry, Texans, I'm not comparing you to California. I know you're so insulted by that. I even put that in the same sentence. But I'm just gonna say, in terms of the topography, is that you can have it's such a big place geographically that you can get all kinds of weather, all kinds of experiences. So You can have areas that are very arid and desert-like and areas that are just super tropical. Like I remember we have family in Texas, so I remember my parents really like to ship us off. I don't know if other people's families do this, but in the summers it was like you get to go spend a month with your grandfather in Texas, or it was pick some family member and then deposit kids there and then make them do stuff. So it was always like camp or help on the farm or whatever. But definitely summers was deposit kids with random family in the South. So
I love
for a while it was Texas, and all I remember was I have memories of raining frogs falling from trees. That's it.
Is that when it gets cold?
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know because it was in the summer, so no, it wouldn't have been cold. It was pretty hot. Tree frogs.
Oh,
They
wow.
just jump out of the trees, and you'll be driving, and there's just frogs and turtles everywhere, hitting your car, falling on your car. Frogs and turtles, snakes. Like, luckily, I'm not afraid of things like that. But my daughter has a bit of a phobia of insects and bugs and turtles and reptiles. And I was telling her that story, and she was horrified by the frogs
Oh
in the
my
tree
God.
story. But yeah, I just
Sounds
are sleeping tin roofs. They had tin roofs on the houses, and with the rain, it was like the coolest sound.
Wow. I know I've heard of something with some sort of, I don't know if it's a reptile or some kind of animal that when, like, even though it's warm, if there's like if like it gets frost, like if, on a random night, the temperature drops too low.
I think you're talking about iguanas.
But maybe that's what it is. And I don't,
The iguanas in Florida that in the winter when they fall out the trees. Yeah. They get too cold because they're cold blooded. Yeah. They're not falling right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it was because it just happened not that long ago, maybe a few months ago. And my nephew lives down there, so I was asking him about it. Yeah, that's why. You're absolutely right.
But you could also be talking about cicadas. I was just thinking of that. So that's a whole nother story. Do you know what a cicada? You have cicadas in.
Oh my gosh.
You have them because I've experienced them in your state.
I don't wish death upon any insect. I just want to mute them somehow.
There must be cicadas this summer because I have a feeling they would be in all those World Cup videos because they really are something to see. If you get stuck enough.
I haven't experienced them this year, but yeah, they definitely come in waves.
I don't think they're here this year. But yeah, when we were driving back to Pittsburgh down to DC on whatever road I remember it goes by so many historical sites because we were driving. I was like, I remember this from U.S. history. I remember this from U.S. history. And then I had my daughter like looking up the sites, and she was like, oh, this is the worst driving with mom. She likes history. But my daughter, again, has a major phobia of things that aren't mammals. And we stopped at some rest stop, and these suckers were falling out of the trees. Like, if I even bring this up, she's in the other room, she will freak out. Like, these cicadas were these big brown insects that squeak at these decibel levels that are crazy. Like, it's ear piercing. Like, it literally hurts your ears. They're so noisy. And then when they die, they fall out of the trees, and they fall on you. And it really stink, too. They're really stinky. But everywhere, they were all over the ground, and you were crunching on them. And they're not tiny bugs. I mean, usually like 3, 4, 5 inches. They're like gross. Like, when you step on them, goo comes out.
Yeah, they're not great. And like you said, they're very loud. But then I think maybe it was a couple of years ago, we had like this massive event where like these different groups of cicadas all came together.
I was there for that one. Yeah, you're still like the brood something. Yeah. I was there.
Brutal. Yeah. Like,
it was
they can
multiple invasions at one time.
Yep.
People were eating.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that it turns out the Native Americans would actually found it a delicacy because they never wasted anything unless it was poisonous. So they would grill them, and people they were grinding them up into meal, protein powder, and everything. So,
boy, that's crazy. I don't know that I would do that, but I wouldn't mind grinding them up.
But I mean, all the things that we have in the U.S. that who knew we have all this stuff, right? We have all this land, so you never know what you're going to find when you go to a new state.
Absolutely. Well, tell me more about whereabouts have you been in Texas?
Where have I been? I've been everywhere. So I'm a big Texas fan. I'm just a big Texas fan because I have friends down there and family down there, and probably if I wasn't in Hawaii, I'd be in Texas. But I sent my kids to summer camp in Texas. Like, people think this is crazy. Did you ever go to summer camp growing up?
I did a couple of times. It was usually a week or two, but
did you grow up?
Not like every summer. It wasn't every year thing.
You said not Pittsburgh. What state did you grow up in?
I grew up in Western New York, just south of Buffalo.
Okay, so yeah, that's a campy place. So camps are pretty big in the summers. For us, it was all about Girl Scout camp. My parents were cheap. They didn't send me to the expensive camps, but I wanted my kids to have like a camp experience that I grew up every summer. We'd go to camp during the summers, and we didn't stay home, if we weren't being shipped off to some random state with to stay with our grandparents. But I love summer camp. The s'mores, the singing, the games, the swimming, and Texas had some great camps. Oh shucks, you probably know about it. You heard about the flooding last year, right? Or was that 2 years ago? In the hill country?
Yeah, I'm quite sure that it's ringing a bell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So actually, one of those camps was the ones I sent my kids to.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I started being happy, and then I realized this is a sad story. But yeah, sorry, autism. But in any case, no, the camps really are incredible, and it's very tragic what happened. But they are so wonderful and so lovely, and just beautiful Americana camps. So, I mean, if anyone from any other country wants an experience for their kids, I strongly recommend an American summer camp. And Texas has them. They're really great.
Yeah,
Probably
especially if you were going to the same one multiple years and you get to run into the same people again, and most of them you haven't talked to in a year, and catch up, and I don't know, that's kind of cool. I never had that, but I get the idea of it.
Evidently, I picked wisely, because once all these like people from Good Morning America started talking about their kids were going to these summer camps, and then I realized that my kids were going to the same summer camps that the broadcasters on, Good Morning America were going to. So I was like, oh, you might know famous people. I wasn't really even thinking of that when I picked the camps, but yeah, it's really really fun. So that was in the hill country. So I've been everywhere, but yeah, my kids have had a lot of experiences in Texas. I just really like the kids there. I think the kids are well-mannered, well-behaved, and it's important for me to have my kids being around kids that are like-minded.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, I enjoyed my time in Texas that I had. Austin was actually not my favorite place. I'm also not like a nightlife guy, so that
Yeah.
wasn't even a thing for me. But the little bit of time I spent in Austin really didn't do much for me. But and Galveston Island is its own thing. I mean, it's beautiful. I love it. But again, it's its own it's different. San Antonio was my favorite. San Antonio blew me away. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the Texano, whatever we call it. It's kind of like Mexican Texan culture that's there. There's a better word for that. But food, again, incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do. I love all of Texas, and I think there's just a big spirit, and everything is big in Texas. So obviously, you've seen the stuff on Buc-ee's. I mean, if you've never been to Buc-ee's, that I've been going there for dozens of years. So I mean, it is definitely. It's incredible. It's like a Disneyland of a gas station, like where you could spend hours in this gas station, and the food is like top shelf for really cheap.
Yeah. Again, it's another thing I've never done. I get to an area where there's a Buc-ee's again, I'll probably jump in. I think they're actually getting one in Ohio somewhere, which is not too far.
Feel the same though. I mean, like the ones in Texas are the original.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, definitely check it out. I mean, brisket is really good. I mean, you can get like Texas level barbecue at a gas station. So, and that's just one of the cool things about America, is that our gas station food is sometimes like Michelin star level food. That's what I love about it. You never know. Like in Hawaii, big time. Like 7-Eleven and the gas stations have the best sushi.
Okay. I don't think I've had. So locally here we have something called Sheets.
Sheets. Yeah.
Yep. And so and my son, who'd never had sushi before, I saw it on their menu, whatever, to get it, and I was like, I feel like I could have it. Let's try it. And it's very decent. I won't say it's the best I've had, but it's very for $7-8 from a gas station. And he's hooked on it now. So now he gets it all the time.
I have a sheet story for you. This is how these podcasts go. So I'm like, I've got a sheet story. So back to the time I was my random story about Pittsburgh, which I never quite finished. Now that I realize the time we spent the day in Pittsburgh, we had like a downpour that day. And it was, you guys have like all kinds of overpasses, lots of hills in Pittsburgh. And we were like under an overpass, and all the water was going down like into this gully. It was a very bad place to be. And at one point in the gully, I think there was like 2 or 3 feet of water, and cars were getting stuck in it. So we were over trying to just not get hailed-ons because the rental car didn't get in trouble, didn't get dinged. And we were at Sheets, and we were stuck, just trying not to get soaked. And I was like, oh, I want to play the lotto. And you guys had like scratchers or something. I don't know. What do you guys call your scratchers? Do you remember?
Yeah. I just call them scratchers. Yeah.
Scratchers. Okay. So anyways, I went in, the power was out. So the guy was like, okay, just give me cash. And he probably just pocketed it. So I got, it was like a 20 or 50. It was whatever the scratcher was the most expensive scratcher. It was like one where you spend like 20 or $50. And it's this big scratcher, right? Stupid me, power's out. What am I thinking, right? Like, why am I doing scratchers? But I'm just trying to keep my daughter, who at the time is just freaking out because of the thunder, lightning, and floods and hail. Like, she has never been in something like this before, even though we live in a tropical place. And I was like, yeah, sometimes in the Midwest we get storms, and this is a storm. So I was trying to keep her occupied with the scratcher. Yes, I know that's illegal, but she wasn't really doing it. She was just helping me scratch. And we had like like some major prize. I don't know if it was $100. It wasn't like 1,000, but it was enough. And I was like, shoot, the power's out, I want my money. But then we needed to go. Like the flood was clearing up, and my mom's like, we gotta go. You know, we gotta save our car. We don't want to drown. So then the nice guy at the Sheets, I said, hey, Merry Christmas. Here's your card. You won. And he was like, thank you so much. And he's like, God bless you. And then we just left.
Wow,
It's the Sheets story. Cool. Yeah. So if you ever meet that guy, I don't know where we were, he got $100 for me.
nice. Because the power was out. And
that's America right there. And so I'm just saying, it comes down to that is the generosity and the fruit of the spirit. I do believe that the Midwest and the South has that kind of nice people. Like, people are just so kind and generous, no matter where you are. I mean, I've been stuck. I've had breakdowns and things happen and just weird parts of the country. And people in the Midwest and the South, they will always step up and help you.
yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely certain areas of the country that are friendlier than others. I also think that we get this thing stuck in our head that certain places are going to just be bad and nobody's going to be friendly. And I still think that most of the people are friendly and helpful across the United States, anywhere you go. But I definitely get that. Southern
I think there's
hospitality
places,
feels safe.
yeah. Southern hospitality is much more like aloha hospitality. So the South and the Midwest is much more like what I experience here in Hawaii, that people are very friendly, very open, very welcoming, as long as you're respectful back. So you have
Yeah.
to be able to give it back. Otherwise, they're just going to say, bless your heart. But yeah.
Another thing we talk about too is like, stereotypes exist probably for a reason, but A, don't believe all of them, and B,
Mm-mm.
things change. And
Mhm.
so, like, I've talked to people recently that Mexico's a hot topic for many reasons, but so many people think Mexico's not safe to go to. Don't go to Mexico, especially don't go to like certain places in Mexico. And I've had multiple people on the podcast that have gone to Mexico and basically ignored, even going into neighborhoods and areas that they were very specifically told don't go, and just had the most wonderful and incredible experiences. But I think, like anywhere, you don't go certain places at night. Maybe you don't go certain places by yourself. But if you're just careful and just be logical about it, there's wonderful people everywhere.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I think having some command of the language is always a smart idea too. Just coming back to, like, don't assume people are going to speak what you speak, and at least try to learn a little bit first.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
And even
absolutely.
not just the language, the culture. I mean, it's not just language. It's any place you go, you should know what is forbidden, what is offensive, what is disrespectful, and try not to do those things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, in the interest of time, as we are approaching an hour, believe it or not, again, and I'm not in a hurry in any way, but take me anywhere else you want to take me to make sure that we get some of these experiences in before we reach our final 5 questions.
Sure, yeah. Well, I might kick this back to you, because I could talk about any state. I mean, like, kind of just depends on what excites you. So, is there any state that you would want to go to or know more about? And then I'll just talk about that one.
Well, I'll tell you what. One of the places that's been on my list in the U.S. is definitely Seattle. You mentioned Seattle earlier, and
Mhm.
I've never been to Washington State, so I would love to get there.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about that. My sister-in-law. Yeah, it's always easier if people just do that, because I'm like, yay. Yeah, my sister-in-law lives in Seattle, so we go up there a lot, and we also go up there for a lot of athletic events since we're West Coast. Athletic events for kids sporting is all going to be in the same area, so that's where our regional stuff is. But oh yeah, Seattle's incredible. Of course, totally green. Just timber everywhere, and just smells like, I think it smells fresh and woodsy. Almost like if you ever smelled like a Christmas tree. It has the Christmas smell. So I love that. And I love Washington State based because you don't have to be performative, in terms of how you present. And I might be the only person who says that's the reason why I like it. But same thing with Oregon and Idaho. I put them all kind of in the same thing. It does not. No one cares what you look like there. As a matter of fact, if you look nice, people will look at you weird. You need to be as casual as possible. and as undressed up as possible there and just be really comfortable.
Yeah.
And people will welcome you. But you can't look like that in other parts of the country. You will be disrespected if you look like that. So you need to know how you need to show up in different parts of the country before you visit. But
Yeah, for
wonderful
sure.
place.
How is Seattle specifically? I'm just very curious because I just get, from what I hear and see, I just get really cool vibes.
It's really cool. I mean, I think things have changed in the last decade, in terms of some of the politics. And I don't know that I've been downtown in the last decade, but I mean, I think I spent a little more time in Portland recently, and I think it's very similar, but a lot of street festivals, food trucks, just just very welcoming people and just very open-minded. You can kind of come as you are and be however you want. I mean, as someone who's on the neurodivergent autistic spectrum, I feel like when I'm in Seattle or Portland or any of those areas, I can come and just be as unmasked as I need to be. Whereas other parts of the country, I have to be a little more buttoned up.
That's a very cool, and I guess I could see that again, not from experience from being there, but just from what I've heard of people's experiences in these places. It makes sense that yeah, just to be able to just let loose and be yourself.
Yep. Very chill, relaxed. And actually, I went to, I mean, I know I keep bringing up Portland because I've just been in Portland more recently, but it's so close to Seattle. It's really similar. But
It's not
Seattle
by
is
San
one.
Diego, so
Yeah, like again, back to the indigenous culture, back to the hot springs. I mean, I really love the indigenous culture and a lot of the medical practices that are done. And there's some small businesses that are going up where they're, doing more healthcare and more alternative healthcare in these states, and there's more services. So definitely look into getting alternative healthcare in those states as well.
very cool. Take me to, let's see. I'm trying to think of, because there's not a lot of other places in the States that I haven't been to already that I really have on my list.
Mhm.
I'd say probably Seattle and Portland are probably two of them. Hawaii obviously is one. Alaska.
Well, when you come out here, you need to let me know because now, and we can film an episode.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be
I
awesome.
can answer any Hawaii questions you want ever. Yeah, for sure. But
Trying to think of cool places that I've been that I really enjoyed to see your take. Have you ever been to Scottsdale in Arizona?
I have, yeah, just last year with my husband. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, another athletic event. It's like our kids are going there, they're staying with the team, and we're just going to do our own thing. But yeah, Scottsdale was really cool. Goodness.
I really
like
enjoyed
March. March is good. Yeah.
Well, and I was gonna say we went mid-February, and so the weather was a little cold, and actually people were very happy that we were there because they said that we brought the rain, and it rained while we were there,
Oh, good.
which was pretty brutal for us because we didn't want it, but everyone else, they needed it so badly. So like we felt good for them, but it was a bummer.
Oh, but you had the rain. Yeah. The problem is Arizona, when it rains, no one can drive.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
it's like you know how to drive because you live in Pittsburgh, but everyone else doesn't because the oils come out of the pavement. I mean,
I
the
was
same
gonna
thing
say
when I
that.
lived in California and people slip. But did you go when you were in Scottsdale? Did you go on one of those Waymos?
No, we didn't.
They were everywhere. Wait, when were you there? When I was there last year,
And
like every other car was a Waymo.
no, I think it was actually when we were there. It has to have been 6 or 7 years now.
Oh, okay. No. This is
I'm
within
guessing.
the last year. Okay, well, next time you go back, because I really wanted to go in one, but my husband wouldn't let me. And I'm still mad. I still bring it up to this date. He's like, no, it's not safe. I said, no, okay. Well, I mean, he would have let me do it. It's not like he would have stopped me, but we were always going places together and I didn't want to be rude. If he didn't feel comfortable, I didn't want to go in it. But I told him next time we go back, I'm doing it and you're getting left. So
Well, we were supposed to be getting them in Pittsburgh, and I just like the downtown area, and I don't know if that ever happened because I heard just a few months ago that they took them off the roads because there was an incident somewhere.
well, they're definitely still other places because they're in all those videos. The World Cup people putting cones on them. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, so then maybe they got them fixed and went back on, but there was an incident somewhere where one was crossing. It was empty, but it was crossing a flooded road, and it actually got swept away into a creek.
oh no.
So
That's
they
not good,
took them
but-
off the road, but maybe it was just for a short time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they're in different regional areas. They come, they leave, they try. They basically have to train their AI on how to drive in those conditions and those roads.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Where else have I really enjoyed time?
I know,
mean,
it's so
one
hard.
thing I
There's
see is-
so many things we could talk about,
know.
and it's like we almost need like,
on my favorite places.
ugh. I'm not traveling with you.
No, okay. Maybe it's just because I
I like remote. I guess maybe I'm more like
Okay.
nature,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
calm, friendly. I don't like cities, so I mean that's why I'm like, blah, Seattle, you. No, yeah, I like
No,
Washington
that's all
State,
right.
but I just don't like cities, so I'm not a city
Yeah.
person. But
I think I just
I
like
mean,
DC for the culture and walking. I just like to walk and see the culture. So, sort of like New York City, a little
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of history. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, a lot of history. But I mean, ultimately, look, it comes down to this. Well, what is your favorite video world? Because we started this talking about World Cup. So, what is your favorite World Cup fun thing that you've seen? What is the funniest thing you've seen?
Honestly, I think the funniest thing, there's a couple, and they both involve the Scots. Like I said,
Yeah,
the one video where they are coming up the escalator and they're rowing a boat. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I saw that one.
And
Yeah,
yeah, it's hilarious. And then
I don't know what they're
just
saying, but
no,
yeah.
and then just them partying outside at a bar in Boston. Just I don't know, I just love it. And man,
But
not
that's
that
how
I
they are. I've gone
not
to
that I
pubs in Scotland. I've gone to pubs in UK. Like they are like fun people. Like they are people I want to party with.
and not that I'm encouraging, drinking, but man, can they drink? Like, but
They
that's the
they literally can. I spent Christmas and New Year's with my relatives in the UK one year. This was in the 90s. And I think I had to dry out for like 2 months afterwards. And I was not even 21, but I mean, this is not illegal at the time. I was probably 19. But the vast amount of beverages that is had in celebration times. I'm not saying they do this all the time, but the amount they can put down and like I'm like, how can you drink? Like they finished all the beer in the airport. Like there's no beer left. It was
yes, I remember
all
seeing that too.
this happens. This actually happens was they will drink all the beer. They can put it down. I'm like, where are you putting this? And then their faces are all red.
Uh-huh.
Goodness. But oh yeah.
So funny.
Super fun partiers. I mean, it's like a frat party every night.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I couldn't do it every night, but that's definitely could be a fun couple of nights.
I think for me, I really like the videos of the Koreans and the. I mean, maybe I'm just specifically like the Koreans and the Japanese just because we got plenty here in Hawaii, and it's always so fun whenever people come from Korea and Japan and try things in the U.S. and just their face when they just the portions, like they've never seen like so much food before. I can't eat like that, like. But I mean, even just the buffets we have here in the US are like pretty phenomenal. Like, buffets are generally like a American thing, you know? You've ever been to Vegas? Speaking of buffets,
I've been to Vegas a couple of times, yes.
did you ever do a buffet there?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. I heard that the buffets in Vegas, there used to be 100 of them, and now there's only like four. I don't know if that's true. But like okay, this is going to be a sidetrack story since I went started talking about food and buffets and everything like that. But one crazy thing we started talking before growing up, my mom used to fly her kids and sometimes cousins, if they came in from Europe, down to Vegas to eat buffet and then back up just to eat for lunch.
What?
Literally, this thought just came up because my dad and I were talking yesterday, and we were just kind of rehashing things like travel stories that maybe you and I could talk about. And then this came up, and then I realized this is so wild that maybe it would shock somebody, but for me, it seems normal. Well, granted, we were in the Bay Area, so a flight to Vegas is 40 minutes, right? It was $29 on Southwest or whatever we flew back then, in the 90s or 80s, I think 90s. But she definitely would fly my brother or brothers, and if there was cousins in town, down to Vegas. I don't know if she went with them, but I'm pretty sure she actually just flew them and then picked them back up because I'm pretty sure she didn't want to go. They were like high schoolers, and she would say, "Send to the circus with a roll of quarters and $20." I'd say, "Take the taxi, go eat the buffet, then go play games, then get on your flight home, and I'll pick you up." She did this multiple times, but this is. My mom's like, teenage boys are expensive, and the buffet at Circus Circus is $7.99 for kids under 12 and under, or $5.99, and they would just have nonstop food. And she said, it's so hard to feed two teenagers. I just want them to go eat and get full. Get out of the house for the day. I think that was the goal. And she, I'm sure she got like crazy. This was the mom I was telling you about that wanted to be a travel agent. So she was really into travel. So we always knew travel deals.
Wow. Yeah, times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed. I don't think people are doing that anymore. But
No.
that's the kind of travel stuff I grew up with.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Well, let's do this, Amanda. We are running a little shy now on time. I'm interested, though, just to know, before I know we focused mostly on the States, is there anything from like being in Europe or in Asia that stands out to you as some of your favorite experiences to touch on before we get to the final five?
Sure. Speaking of moms flying us places,
There you go.
when I was 17 and graduated from high school, I was young when I graduated. My mom gave me a Euro pass for 2 months, $1,000 gift, and said bye and dropped me off at the airport for 2 months. And I just went to Europe and traveled, trained around everywhere for 2 months with my friends. Super fun.
Oh, and awesome. And so once you're there, it's so cheap to travel anyway. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Especially if you don't have transportation.
yeah.
We went to, I think, 20 countries. That's part of how I got my 32 countries over 2 months. And we really had no plans. I mean, it was just roll. No plans. And we had 20, I think it came out to 20 something dollars a day. It might have been less than 1,000. I don't know how much it was, but it came out to $25 a day that we could spend on food and lodging. So we stayed in some real dumps, if you can imagine. But we always had a place to stay. 2 girls, and this is before cell phones, So all I remember these were the rules. The rules were anytime you enter a new country, the first day you're there, you have to call one of the parents, either my friend's parents or my parents, and then they would have a phone tree and they would call the other people. But we would call collect. So do you remember the trick from the 80s where it would be a beep and you would have 1 second to say something?
Yes.
So, you'd say, collect call from Finland, and then you hang up, and right was it. Then a parent knew we were in Finland. And then a few days later, another parent would get, Spain or Barcelona.
Remember the old commercial on TV it played on that? It was like, collect
Add a
from.
baby eats a boy.
Add a baby eats a. Yeah.
I just thought about that. It's Joy. She had a baby. Eats a boy.
Funny.
Yeah. But we used to totally do that. I just came up. I just remembered it. I mean, that's the beautiful part about podcasts. But yeah, 2 months, bye. I can't imagine my daughter's 17. No, she could do it. Her friends do this, but they go to Korea and Japan. I guess because we're in Hawaii and it's cheaper than trying to go to Europe, and it's a lot cheaper. But yeah, it was the most fun I've ever had. 2 months of just rolling around. Adventures. And the funny thing is, my friend and I didn't even drink. We were too chicken to drink, which I think most Americans do now. But we were like, well, it just costs too much, and it's going to take a chunk out of my budget, and there's no nutrition in that, so we just won't, And that way, we won't we won't get ourselves in a bad situation. Which was our ground rules with each other. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's so lame. I could have had so much more fun, but it's all right,
Do you remember, were there days that you would purposely, maybe sleep even in a cheaper place to save up some money so that you could maybe splurge a day?
Yeah. We stayed in some real dumps.
Yeah. A lot of hostels.
Oh, yeah, mostly hostels. But my friend was 6'1". So this is my friend from high school. She was much bigger than me. So she was very large size, even though she was not like a fighter or anything, but no one messed with us because they were afraid of her.
Yeah, for sure. It's taller than most guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that's why my friend let me go. My mom let me go, is because my friend was going. And, she was very brave. She was very tough. No one was going to mess with us.
Very, very cool. Anything else before we jump into the final five? Anything else you want to share?
Nah, I'm good.
You good? And again, in the final 5 questions, you can expand as much as you'd like on your answers. And sometimes something else will pop in your head. By all means, feel free to share anything else that pops in your head as well, okay?
Sure.
All right. So the final 5 questions, do you know these?
I do not, because I don't think I've ever made it with my ADHD to the end of your podcast. I usually get about 2/3 through.
That's absolutely fine. I like it this way because I like the off the top of the head answers. So
okay.
So you touched on food a number of times, which is very cool because a lot of times I get people who are not foodies on the show. And so I really like question number 1, and I phrase it very carefully. So question number 1 is, of all of the places in the world that you have been, what has been one or two of your favorite meal experiences anywhere in the world?
Oh, meal experiences. Okay, I'll put Switzerland. I was there a few years ago with my daughter, and this is pretty trite, touche, but we had authentic fondue, but it was authentic, correct, with the right dipping stuff and the right wine, the right flavors, and it was just so yummy,
Excellent. Okay, that's never been an answer, so that's excellent.
Okay.
Is it any others that pop in your head from anywhere that you like to share as well, or is that good?
When I was in Germany, I had to make money, And I illegally worked as a bar hostess in a konditorei, which is a pastry shop. So I had to serve them, and I had to memorize all the names of all the torts and everything like that. But then whatever was left over, they were so fresh that they would throw it all away. But they said, if you guys want to take it home, you can, but we won't give you anything to store it in. So we used to just take a trash bag and dump all the leftover cakes in the trash bag and bring it back to the dorms. And then we just open the trash bag and everybody would just feast at like midnight.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. That's cool.
But this was like $500 worth of really fancy cakes and torts. So, and then by the way, I gained like 50 pounds that year. I was massive.
All of free desserts.
Yep.
Awesome.
And beer.
Yeah, well, that too. Okay, so question number 2. This one is a challenge for some people, and some people don't have an answer for this one, and that's fair if you don't. So question number 2 is, of all the places in the world that you have been, even if I came to you and said, Amanda, here is a free trip, go and enjoy yourself, you would say, no, thank you, I don't want to go back for whatever reason.
I got plenty. I can always answer that. There's lots of places I don't like. I just try not to insult other people. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge Mexico fan. I didn't say anything when you said it. I'm not a Mexico fan. I've had horrible experiences in Mexico. And I'm not saying the people were bad. It was just getting ill. Like every time I went, I had the worst Montezuma's revenge. And all I did was feel terrible there and feel terrible for a week afterwards. So I'll pay no thanks to Mexico.
Oh no, that's
I've never had that issue in any other third. I've traveled like all areas of Asia, other places. I've done mission work in weird parts of Russia, and I never got sick in any of those other places, only Mexico.
That stinks. Yeah, wow. Okay, well then that's a very valid answer then.
Yeah, like I said, nothing to do with the people or the danger. That wasn't the issue. It's just getting sick.
Yeah.
And then the lack of healthcare. You like once you're there, like it's like, oh no.
Yeah, once you start getting sick, you get scared, I'm sure, to some degree.
Yeah.
Okay, well, question number 3 is flipping that 180 degrees, but I put a caveat on it. So question number 3 is, of all the places in the world that you have been, if you only had 1 or 2 trips left in your lifetime for some reason, what would be those 1 or 2 places that you absolutely have to go back to?
I think definitely going back to Europe, but this time doing it not as a student. So because most of my European adventures were done extraordinarily poor, like I described, and I really never got to eat or drink good things or enjoy it, any of the fun activities or the shopping or anything. Matter of fact, I don't know that I've been anywhere international and actually had money to spend. All my international trips, except for maybe one recently, which was only 3 days with my daughter, I was a poor student. So that's what happens when you go to grad school, and then start working and have kids within a year. It's like, my youngest one's going off to college next year, and I'll finally be able to travel again, which is part of the reason I started listening to your podcast, because I started getting all excited about all the places I can go. So yeah, go back to Europe and all over. I can't wait.
Okay, very good. Excellent. And I think you will really enjoy it. Going there again, being able to
And I speak a lot of the languages, so it'll be really fun.
Oh, that's awesome. How many languages do you speak?
Well, German's definitely fluent because I studied there and it was all in German, although it's rusty now, but I understand it if I hear it. It's hard to get the words out. But I took 3 or 4 years of French, 1 year of Italian, 1 year of Swedish, and 3 years of Spanish. I really like languages, so they're all mixed up in my head now when I hear them. But when I travel, I understand everything I hear. I can understand Dutch. I can understand Swedish. I mean, once you have one of those languages, then you start to be able to understand the rest of them. At least you can kind of know what's going on around you, and you don't freak out and you don't have to speak English, which is great. You can interpret them.
Yeah. And I think there's a sense of, if you're staying in a place for more than a couple of days, it starts to come back. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I mean, the main thing is dreaming in the other language. At one point, I could dream in German. That has gone away. But when I went back there a few years ago, it started to come back. So I'm really hoping to go back to Germany or Austria and spend more time there as I get older.
Awesome. Okay, question number 4, similar to 3, is, of all the places in the world that you have never been, but you only have 1 or 2 trips left in your lifetime, what are those 1 or 2 places that you must get to?
Ooh, it's on my list. I really want to go to India for the culture and the food and just the beauty of it. So I'm hoping to get more over in that world sooner than later. It's not that far from here, but I think I'm a little stuck because there's so many places I'd like to go, but I think And I probably shouldn't be getting too much into this on your 5 questions, but I think being a female and the safety thing is a little more of an issue. And I don't like the idea of having to drag a man with me in order to travel. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. So I think a lot of it just depends on how the politics go, in the next year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you only had like one trip left, though, that would be it. India.
I think India is what I'd pick.
Okay, excellent. And I've heard mixed things about it. The people who love India, like really love it, and have advised me that you need to go and spend a month. You can't just go for.
I think it's the culture and the people and the families and just getting to really get in there and get ingrained. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm kind of sad we're down to our final question, and I don't know if you have an answer for this one because you kind of just mentioned, with daughter going off to college and whatnot. But question number 5 is, where are you going? What do you have planned, if anything, maybe the rest of this year into next year?
This year is like my least travel year. So I think I'm trying to figure this out because for a while, it was traveling had to do with work, but right now my work is not very international. And then traveling had to do with youth activities and kids sports. And now my kids travel on their own. They don't need mommy to go with them anymore. And my husband doesn't travel that much because his mom is 93 and we're kind of taking care of her. So it's just me. And my parents are a little too old to travel, too much adventurous travel. So it's just a matter of trying to find that travel buddy to go with. And that works for me. And I haven't really found that friend yet that I can travel with. And I think we all have our unique traveling ways, and trying to find that person that can plug in with us is the right person. So if anybody thinks you're that right person for me, let me know.
I was just going to say,
just to travel.
Right. Yep. But yeah, I was also going to say that. Reach out to Amanda if you need a travel buddy. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes, like, I haven't done much solo travel, and I think there's parts of solo travel that I would really enjoy, and I will, because I will be doing some solo travel. But there's definitely something about sharing experiences with someone else, and not even just the safety factor, but just being able to share something together. And then even after the fact, it's so much fun to talk about the old stories and stuff and share different perspectives of the same thing. And I love that part of travel as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's a matter of finding the right person finance wise that fits for you, but also even just like time wise. When I travel, I don't like to do like a 16-hour day. I like to do like a 7-hour day. And then I like to spend a lot of time just chilling. And not everyone is a chill kind of person. So it's funny because I'm so type A, but when I travel, I'm so type B. So, and my friends are just they're too type A for me when they travel. So it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But person will chill out.
Styles are very unique and different. So
yeah.
Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. Amanda, I knew that it was going to be, but really, really had a great time with you. And is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners or anything before we actually hit stop on the recording?
No. I would just love to hear your feedback and your stories. And I mean, obviously I'm a dentist, so I usually like to give an offer to podcasts when I'm like, my travel people. But here's my offer to your listeners. Obviously, if there are dentists, feel free to reach out to me if you ever have dental questions. But for everyone else, if you're ever thinking about going to Hawaii, this is just because it is a special interest for me. My little neurodivergent brain. I love Hawaii. So if you have any questions, I do not mind at all if people just email me a non-dental question and ask a Hawaii question. Feel free to reach out to me through my website if you have a question.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. That's really cool. And you can tell you're very passionate about it. And so maybe next time we do this again down the road, we'll focus a little bit more on Hawaii itself. And
no, that's when you come out here in person, and then we're going to do it.
That's right. And
then we're going to actually have it on video.
Yeah,
and we'll go someplace cool. Yeah,
we'll do some live streaming or something like that. I've never done that, so this was fantastic, and hopefully we will talk again soon. Have a great night. And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always, and I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.